All right, my friends, we just got done watching The Water Magician, and just like our main character, I'm a little bit hot and cold on it. One part, there's enough here that is interesting, but then one part of just like, it's just mediocre and okay. Now, one of the things that always bugs me when you have reincarnation stories like this, when people are not born in another world, one that bothers me to no end, because people always talk, or like the stories that people create are always about being reincarnated into another world. Well, this isn't being reincarnated into another world. You're just being kind of moved or transported into another world, because he basically, one, you should always be thinking about what you're wearing, because like if I was reincarnated right now, I'd be reincarnated in like a basic tee, a hat, and some slides. You know what I mean? But bro is basically reincarnated, or re-put, or transported once again with wearing whatever he was wearing before, which was just like some jeans. What is it, like was it a hoodie? I don't even know if it was a hoodie, like a hoodie and some some basic Converse or something. And I was like, okay, that's the first tick for me, is these reincarnation stories that you have where they're not reborn in another world. And I understand from a writing standpoint the reason they do that is to avoid having to write them coming of age, right? Going from baby, and that it's a writer's like cheat code. It's a writer's way to kind of skip forward. But is it always the best? No. I think most of the time we find that the stories that tend to do better when it comes to isekais and reincarnation stories are the ones that do take the time to have them actually be reborn. Now, regardless, he wants the slow life. Michael the angel puts him into another world of magic, and right then and there too, this has nothing to do with this or any isekai story, but anytime that you're going to a world of swords and magic, immediately you have to imagine, most folks that they show are excited. And again, most of us probably would be kind of excited, but at the same time, it's like no electronics, no running water, no place to do doo-doo where you can flush it. Like, that sounds horrendous, So it's always one of those things to where it has nothing to do with the Water Magician specifically, but just in general, I'd be like, do you have something like more modern? That's why I really like the recent, that's why I like stories like Eminence in Shadow. And then last season, we had the other anime where it's like a space isekai, and there it's very modern and very tech, and like you don't have to worry about all your natural amenities, and there's still a little bit of magic and stuff like that. So I really like that quite a bit. But anyways, going back to the Water Magician, he ends up getting hit by a car. Truck-kun does his business, and he gets reincarnated into this other world by this Michael guy. By the end of the episode, we find out that he has what they call a hidden trait, and apparently they've reincarnated somebody else into this world with that hidden trait. The hidden trait ends up being an eternal youth, which means that he's going to be whatever age he is, that he died, 14, 15, 16 years old. He's somewhere in that ballpark. I'm sure he can have muscle growth and stuff. He's always going to be stunted and be that age forever, which I thought was interesting. And, he wants to live his slow life, and he ends up wearing the same clothes for God knows how long. He decides to practice water magic day after day, but he takes probably a couple months to learn how to create fire, which is a whole nother thing too. It's like, okay, so we're going to focus on the magic, but a simple fire, we're not going to practice. So he finds ways around that. He creates a magnifying glass out of like glass shards, or ice shards and stuff like that. He practices magic over a course of a couple of months. And then he ends up going out and begins to use his magic, and begins to hunt and begins to fish. And eventually that leads him into finding like a big griffin, and we find out that monsters and things can evolve in this world. Then we find out that he finally meets a Dullahan that I guess trains him, that we find out later was like the Sword Fairy King or something, or maybe what used to be the Sword Fairy King. He gets gifted a really OP weapon. Then at the end of the episode, he finds a dragon, which in his book, because he's given a house and a starter book and stuff. He finds out that dragons are like, hey, if you see a dragon, like, run, but you're probably gonna die. But dragons have telepathy; they're very smart creatures, and he basically befriends one. So overall, the episode has a lot of good stuff. The story seems to have a lot of good stuff. There's a lot of things that I don't like, but it's not necessarily inherent to this. It's more the genre. But this does it. This has those tropeistic things as well too. But at the end of the episode, it shows that somebody else comes onto the island, so he'll probably have a friend, so he won't be completely alone. So I think that's pretty cool. But it does have certain things I do like. You know, it has really good art. He's a water magician specifically, so he's not like OP to where he can do it all, but his specialty is water. Based on all his training, because he's been really focused, he's probably going to end up being a very versatile water magician as well as a swordsman because he's practicing with the Dulan. And where the story will go, I'm not sure. I imagine it'll lead him outside of where his bubble is currently. And he'll probably be OP in those aspects. I imagine it'll lead him out and maybe he becomes like some world-renowned thing. Because I mean, that's just kind of where these stories end up going, but it will probably be a slow journey to get there. But I'm interested enough, but my interest is going to live and die with what you guys think. So let me know in the comments how you guys are feeling about this. Also, you know, a couple of things, sound out in the comments, hit me with the like, and of course, you know, it's gonna be based on views. So if 30 people watch this video, hey, I love all 30 of y'all. But if 300 people watch it, then I'll probably be watching again next week. So should you watch it? Maybe this one is not going to be one for everybody. So let me know how you guys are feeling in the comments, temperature check wise. And then will I be back next week? We'll see. If enough people watch this video, I'll for sure be back next week. And if not, then I won't. And it's okay because there's like 30 other summer anime instead. So thank you guys so much for watching my episode 1 review of Water Magician. And maybe we'll see you guys next week. Until then, my friends, peace out.